It's December, and you know what that means.
It's freaking cold. And dark. Can you believe it's not even 4 p.m.?
Anyone who knows me knows that I hate the wintertime.
And I mean, look at this shit. How could you not?
The sun has barely come out in the last 60 days. It's gloomy almost all the time, and even when the sun does briefly pop out, the wind blows right through your bones as soon as you open the door.
You might be wondering where all the snow is, because it is December after all, and I can't answer that. This is all we've got at the moment. But somehow without the snow, it feels even colder. It's awful out here.
To make matters worse, almost everyone seems to be coming down sick lately. It's a mess. And while in the summertime, there's always plenty of things to do to keep busy, once the winter rolls around, I'm always left feeling kind of like a dog. Like I'm just sitting around all day waiting for my next meal because I have nothing else to look forward to. Wake up, poop, eat, go to work, come home, eat, shower, go to bed, repeat. At least Levi doesn't have to go to work. But I also don't have to poop in a blizzard, so I guess that's a fair trade. But all of this has led me to thinking, what are some things we could do during the wintertime to add a bit of zest to life? What if instead of fixating on the lack of options, we took the opportunity to pursue some new hobbies and new interests and made the season something to look forward to in its own way? Being optimistic is exhausting. I don't know how people do this all the time.
So here are some things I'm doing this season to stay busy and keep myself from going loco without breaking the bank. Because let's be honest, if money was no object, I would be in Hawaii right now, so I wouldn't have to deal with any of this bullshit. I'm going inside.
Read. And yes, I know this isn't the most inventive idea in the world, but about 3 years ago, I rediscovered my love of reading. And this discovery was spawned by, you guessed it, a snowstorm. With nowhere to go and nothing to do, I wandered into a bookstore for the first time in a long time and allowed myself just to kind of randomly browse around, which is something that I don't actually think I'd ever done before. I allowed myself to just pick out some books randomly on a whim, without looking up reviews, without ever having heard of them before, and without actually sticking to the type of books or the genre of books that I would otherwise typically gravitate towards. More specifically, I was looking for something that I could read that would provide entertainment value and nothing more, nothing beyond that. In doing that, walking into a bookstore without any idea of why I was there or what I was looking for exactly allowed me to shake off any self-imposed judgment I might have held about what makes a good book or a bad book, what is worth reading or not worth reading. And by doing this, I found that I love a type of book that I call fluff thrillers. These are books that are literary trash, to be quite honest with you. It is the printed version of reality TV. They are not highbrow, they're not educational, they're written for somebody probably with like a 7th grade reading level. They're not meant to educate, but they are entertaining. I tend to be a pretty intense person. I tend to do a lot of heavy reading and a lot of heavy research just for my own purposes, just for my own entertainment value, but I tend to struggle to turn my brain off sometimes, and these types of books, these fluff thrillers as I call them, these kind of crappy novels, they actually allow me to unwind, which is really nice. They allow me to turn my brain off a little bit and to find some entertainment value and to enjoy reading them, but without having to really think too hard about anything. And I think sometimes that can be really healthy too. Admittedly, in the summertime, reading seems to fall to the wayside for me because there's just so many other things to do and I like to be outside when it's nice out. But as soon as it gets cold outside, I tend to grab a book and get right back into it. And I would encourage you guys to give this a try. Go to a bookstore, wander around aimlessly for half an hour or an hour, and pick out something that is maybe not something you would typically pick out. Don't look up reviews, don't go off anybody else's word, just kind of pick something that speaks to you in that moment. And maybe make an outing of it, maybe do it once a month, maybe treat yourself to a nice coffee while you're there. Just give yourself something to look forward to and give yourself something to enjoy that might be outside of the scope of your normal, whatever that means to you. Learn a language. As a Canadian with a predominantly American audience, there is one question that I get asked in the comments more often than I ever thought I would, and that is, do you speak French? And the answer is no. Or as they say in French, no. I mean, our public school curriculum requires us to take French all the way through to grade 9, and I did, but really all I got out of it was like, oui oui, fromage, croissant, chien. That's kind of the extent of it. Bonjour. Well, actually, it's not really a mystery why that happened. French was my first period class, and I was late every single day, and when I finally got there, I was locked out, and so I missed probably 75% of the class. But in actuality, the bigger problem was probably that I was just like a snarky, immature little shit, and I just didn't care, didn't pay any attention. Now that I am a equally snarky, perhaps slightly less immature, bigger shit, I do somewhat regret the fact that I can't speak French. Not because I've ever actually been in an environment where I needed to, but living in a city as multicultural as Toronto, to be honest with you, the fact that I only speak one language makes me feel kind of dumb because everyone else around me speaks multiple. In most parts of the world, people speak more than one language, except for all of us here in North America, and I'm sure that is glaringly obvious when we travel abroad. So with all of that said, I've decided to take another crack at educating myself and trying to learn French, and I'm doing it with Lingota, who's also kind enough to sponsor today's video. My favorite thing about Lingoda is that it's all centered around live video classes where instructors are native speakers who speak directly to you in the language you're learning, which I found really forces my brain to try to translate and learn in real time, and it's been surprisingly fun. In particular, I'm really looking forward to starting the next Sprint Challenge, which begins January 15th. The Sprint Challenge is an intensive 60-day program focused on helping you learn quickly and stay consistent. And if you successfully attend all of your classes within that 60-day period, Lingoda will actually credit you back 50% cash back for the price of the course. If that's not motivating, I don't know what is. But over and above that, they've also given me a special discount to share with you guys, so if you'd like to join me on the Sprint Challenge and start learning a new language this year, head over to try.lingoda.com/Nicole_sprint to get up to 30% off, and use the code Nicole20 at checkout to save an additional $25 off.
Do a culinary deep dive.
Every so often, I go through these phases where I become a bit obsessed with learning as much as I can about mastering a certain cuisine or culinary recipe. My first endeavor was brewing kombucha, which had explosive but delicious results. 2 years ago, I went down the Chinese food rabbit hole as I attempted to learn how to recreate my favorite takeaway dishes at home. I learned about something called wok, which translates to breath of the wok. You know that delicious, subtle, kind of smoky flavor that comes through on fried rice and noodle dishes from Chinese restaurants? Yeah, that's wok. I learned that it's created when the big-ass flame from the industrial gas stove licks over the edge of the wok, combusts with the oil, and slightly chars the ingredients, leaving that delicious flavor and aroma. Wok is the main reason your homemade lo mein never tastes as good as the one you order in. Wok is also impossible to achieve on a home stovetop. Especially an electric one like I have now. It's not very good. But I wanted to try to find a workaround, which led to me getting this wok, this blowtorch, and all of these sauces. I then spent the next few months researching and experimenting, stir-frying noodles and veggies every week with different ratios of different sauces and different techniques until I landed on what I think is as close as it's going to get to the real deal. Not only can I now make delicious Chinese takeout style food at home, but I genuinely had a lot of fun learning in the process. We saw nearly the whole world do this when the Rona first happened and suddenly everybody was baking sourdough bread. There's something just so fulfilling about being able to learn something new, put it into practice immediately, and then just see the results right in front of you. Especially when the results are delicious. This year, my deep dive is going to be espresso. I mentioned before that I've been thinking for a while about upgrading my espresso machine to something a little more intricate. What I didn't mention is that this thing has been sitting in my living room for the last 2 months. I picked it up brand new on Facebook Marketplace and I got a hell of a deal on it. I got it for like half of retail price, and I've been deciding what to do with it ever since. Part of me wants to keep it because I know it's a great deal and I've kind of always wanted one. The other part of me thinks that I should just flip it for some quick cash. And I flip-flopped back and forth for the last 2 months, and I think I've finally decided that I'm just gonna keep it and enjoy it for myself because it's the best deal I'm ever gonna find, and I probably wouldn't pay the full MSRP on a machine like this. Now I get to experiment and learn about different coffee roasts, different grind settings, and probably continue to be terrible at latte art. But such is life, I suppose. I've also always wanted to try my hand at brewing beer, but I drink so little that I could never go through an entire batch. I don't really know what I would do with it. I guess maybe I could give it away as gifts, but maybe that's a project for next year. Pick up an instrument. You know how you've always wanted to play guitar or drums or whatever? You should do it. And what better time than when it's cold as tits outside and you have nowhere to go. You're gonna suck at first and it's gonna be frustrating, but if you keep at it all winter, by the time the summer rolls around, you could be slightly less awful. You might even be that insufferable douche who plays Wonderwall at every house party. What a blast. Oh god, I hate that shit. Seriously though, playing music is an incredibly healthy thing to do for your brain. It's been shown to improve neuroplasticity and to improve cognitive function, and for me personally, playing music has been a great way to meet people and build community. Pretty much everyone knows someone who has a crappy old guitar or drum set in their basement, and they would be happy for you to take it off their hands, give them their space back. If you're looking for an excuse to get out of the house more often, weekly music lessons can be a great way to do that. Or if you're looking to do it for free, you can just self-learn on YouTube, and it's that easy. Consider this. Every musician you've ever loved started off just as awful and clueless as you are today, and if that's not motivation, I don't know what is. And finally, start a YouTube channel. And I know this isn't going to automatically appeal to everyone, so just hear me out for a moment. I started this channel nearly 3 years ago in the midst of winter and also in the midst of a lockdown when I had just way too much time on my hands. My initial goals were simple. I wanted to learn how to make videos, I wanted to have an outlet to talk about the things that I find interesting when I don't really have somebody in real life who maybe cares about the same things that I do, and I wanted to push myself out of my comfort zone by posting them online. I figured that if I was lucky and I could stick with it long enough, I might eventually be able to monetize and make a few dollars which I could just use to buy better camera gear as I continue to learn and get into the hobby. Never did I think things would move so quickly and that I'd be here now today in this way. But yeah, having this channel ticked all those boxes I just mentioned. I'm learning how to make videos, I have an outlet to talk about the things that I find interesting, and I've definitely been pushed out of my comfort zone in many ways. But now this channel has become something more. It's become a community to initiate some introspective conversations, it's become a platform for people to share their goals and cheer each other on along the way, and it's also become a part-time job for me, in a good way. It's become a source of income for me that's allowed me to spend less hours on the road at my day job and given me more freedom and flexibility to do the things that are important to me and also ease some of my financial stress. And the thing that I think is the most special about YouTube is that it's a platform where anybody can pursue whatever it is they're passionate about. Like if you're into interior design and decor, you can make a channel about that. If you're into video games, you can make a channel about that. If you're a musician, it can be a platform to share your music with the world. It's not about filmmaking. YouTube is a backdoor to pursuing any interest and turning it into a career. It's removed any and all gatekeeping that may have existed in decades past. Like you no longer need the Food Network to become a well-recognized chef. You no longer need the backing of a record label or a production company to be a musician or a filmmaker. YouTube is the new TV, and while not everybody necessarily wants to be a TV star, almost everybody wants the ability to pursue the things that they're passionate about. They want the ability to work remotely and to come and go as they please and to just have ultimate flexibility and freedom in their life. And having a YouTube channel is a direct avenue to all of those things. It's kind of funny, but I recently heard that being a YouTuber is now like the most popular answer when you ask kids what they want to be when they grow up. And it's really wild for me to think about the fact that kids consider this to be in line with musicians and actors and athletes and all of the people that we've traditionally always looked up to. I know that there are probably a lot of parents who think that it's scary to think that that's what their kid wants to do for a living, that this is some weird, outlandish, unachievable thing. But the truth is that it isn't at all. Obviously, there are a very small handful of YouTubers who are extremely successful, who have millions and millions of subscribers and probably make a ton of money. And I guess that's what most kids probably have in mind when they think about wanting to be a YouTuber. And so understandably, their parents probably think that's really far-fetched and unachievable. And in some ways, I guess I would agree with them. But that's not how it has to be. That's not all that there is to this. While sure, it's a very small percentage of people who are way at the top, who are rich, who are famous off of their YouTube channels, and yes, there are probably a lot more people at the bottom who are making absolutely nothing, the fact is that there are hundreds of thousands, if not maybe even millions of people who are somewhere in between, who are earning an average income, $50,000 a year, $75,000 a year as a full-time YouTuber, doing what they want to be doing. It is a much more viable career path nowadays than I think that a lot of people want to acknowledge or a lot of people are even aware of. And I'm not suggesting that everybody should start doing this with the intention of turning it into a business. That may or may not be your goal. It doesn't have to be your goal. In fact, you can do it strictly as a hobby, and a lot of people do. But I do think it's a good hobby to have. It teaches you a lot of new skills. It's a creative outlet for you to talk about whatever it is that you find interesting and important. And the barrier to entry is very low. Like literally anybody can do what I'm doing. I'm just sitting on the floor next to my puppy, talking to a camera. You can do what I'm doing. If this isn't your jam, that's no problem. But if you've ever had even just a small inkling of like, hey, that might be an interesting thing to do, or that might be a fun thing to do, try doing it. It's wintertime, it's cold. What else do you have to do with your time? Grab your phone and talk about something that you find interesting and post it online and see what will happen. Probably nothing at first, but you never know what it could turn into, and really, it's completely up to you what it becomes. Anyways, that is all I've got for you guys today. These are the things that I'm going to be doing to keep busy this winter, and hopefully they've given you some ideas and inspiration of your own. Drop me a comment down below and let me know which of any of these things is the most interesting to you, or maybe you have another idea or another hobby that you're pursuing indoors, and I'm always open to more ideas, so let me know down below. If you enjoyed this video at all, please go ahead and hit the like button. Feel free to subscribe if you haven't done so yet. You can follow me on Instagram at according_to_Nicole. If you're watching this video on the day that it is dropped, Merry Christmas if you celebrate. Other than that, thank you guys so much as always for watching. Take care. I'll see you next week.